Dash, and we have our next speaker, Shilpa here. Welcome, Shilpa. Thanks for joining.
Hello, sir. It's my pleasure to be here. I can see it's a back-to-back session for you. But yeah, I'm very, very happy to participate on your forum. Thank you for
Yeah,
having me.
pleasure. Shilpa, I think you have a presentation with you, right?
Yes, sir. I would like to pull up a presentation so that we can have a focused discussion on my research and I could get a chance to talk about what I've been
Can
doing.
you
Would you want me
just,
to pull up the
yeah,
presentation?
yes.
Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and go ahead with that.
I think this is a session of Shilpa Sahay, and she will be talking about her experience of ICT in education in India and USA. Yeah, my God. Is it?
I'm trying to share the screen, but it is not allowing.
It's not
No,
11.
so shares this. Mm.
If there is any problem, Shilpa, you can just email it to us. You can email it on uh, the email ID which is like written on chat. Can you see any ID? There? Let
Yes,
me.
I can see Abhishek's ID.
Yes. Yeah. So just send it to Abhishek.
Okay, just one second.
And also there is the ID of Rajeshwar at eletsonline.in. So you can send on both of them.
Mhm.
So while Shilpa is putting up this PPT, let me just those who have joined a bit late, let me inform that this is the final day of the World Education Summit, fifth day, and we just had a presentation from Malaysia on the startup ecosystem and how startup education is working out in schools in Malaysia. And we have with us Shilpa, who will be talking about her experience of ICT in education in both in India and USA, her research work. So, Shilpa, have you emailed it to Abhishek?
No, sir, just one second. I'm just trying to pull
Okay,
up the presentation.
okay. So, by the time you are doing it, let me request my colleague to just put up a video
Sure,
online, right, of this
sure, sir.
Rajeshwar. Shilpa, have you sent this PPT to
Yes,
Abhishek?
I've sent it to both Abhishek and Rajeshwar.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
once again
So,
trying to see if I could share the screen.
okay.
Um,
So
let's
Abhishek,
see this
you
one.
have it with you? Let me just coordinate.
Yes, sir.
Abhishek or Rajeshwar, are you? Yes, I think they have it. Uh, Shilpa, are you sharing it or someone else is doing it?
Yes, I think I'm able to share it now. So sorry for the
Excellent.
confusion.
Excellent.
But
Excellent. 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 Perfect. Let's start it then.
I don't know if is it me who's sharing the screen or has it been pulled up by Abhishek? You
Okay.
are in the
Just go for next slide and you will know that who is doing it.
okay. I think Abhishek is able to share.
Acha, Abhishek is sharing. Yeah, no, he's saying that Abhishek, I can share if you want. Abhishek, if you can come on the screen and mention that, like right now, you are sharing it or someone else is sharing.
I request Silpa, can you stop the screen sharing from your side so I can share from my side right now?
Can I share it, Abhishek? If
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can, I
yeah,
would
yeah,
want to
Yes,
share.
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
also share, Silpa. You just share the screen and just click on the PPT.
Okay.
Now you click on the PPT.
Yeah, is the PPT visible?
No, no, no. Right now we are seeing our own screen right now. Please.
Let me share one more time. I'm trying
Uh,
to share one more time.
Now select the this. Right now we are seeing our image only. You can select the slide that you want to share. We are not able to see.
Okay.
Let Abhishek share it.
Sure. Okay. Why don't you go
Silpa,
ahead?
just guide me to the next slide. I will just put the next slide.
Okay.
Okay, just you stop the screen. See. Are you able to see the PPT?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes. Let's start it, Shilpa. Yes, please.
All right. Thank you so much for having me on this forum. I am very excited. My journey in the field of education started somewhat probably 15 years back when I was back in India doing my master's in social work. And then I got a chance to work in education sector on the national policy of ICT in school education and so on and so forth. I've been working in this domain, and today I would be presenting on challenges and opportunities which teachers face towards integrating technology in education from the perspectives of both teachers in India and the USA. A little bit about myself. I'm an associate research scientist in New York University. I've earned my PhD in education technology from University of Florida. My passion lies in exploring towards how teachers have been using technology in classrooms, especially in South Asia. And I've been working towards researching on how to explore and understand the digital divide between the global north and the global south. So, this platform is where I want to express my research findings in both my study, which I've conducted in India, and my research, which is undergoing in the US here. Next slide. So for the past couple of years, when I had to decide about my PhD dissertation topic, I was sure that it has to come from my place of understanding and origin of education work. It has to be based out of Indian education system. And I strongly felt at that time that it's very important for researchers, educationists to understand how teachers perceive technology in classrooms. There have been a lot of initiatives which have already happened, but where are the teachers? What do they think, and how is the integration taking place? For the last couple of years in the United States here, I've been working on research where we are trying to understand how educators in elementary schools are trying to implement hands-on STEM learning using multimedia in New York City public schools. So having a base of both these studies, I thought in this forum, I would really want to share with all the participants belonging to the education field to see how teachers in two different regions have perceived technology and have utilized technology in different ways. Next slide. So these are a couple of pictures which I had taken when I was doing my survey back in India in the government schools of New Delhi. And these couple of images capture the variety of mediums and variety of ways in which technology is being utilized in the government schools. The first picture is a very common kind of platform where we see students sitting on the floor, and there's an overhead projector which projects on the wall, and a teacher in the local language is trying to pass on the digital information to the student. The second image is also a portrayal of lot of schools in India where there are seminar rooms, where there are computer rooms, there are proper projectors, whiteboards, and other facilities, and students get a chance to go to the computer lab and attend their science or math class. The third picture is a picture of one of the NDMC schools in New Delhi, where I was amazed to find that out of the 30 schools, all the schools had got the sanction to actually transform the 444 classrooms in these schools to smart city classrooms, where there were provisions and funding for a whiteboard, green board, speakers, computers, and certain parameters. So this picture just gives like a glimpse of how technology is being integrated in the government schools in India. Next, please. Talking about a typical American public school, we do not have a classroom which suggests that this is the kind of technology which is being used. Here in the US, in an American public school, depending on the district and the funding, we see a lot of different explorations in EdTech by teachers. Some districts where they have good funding and better technological integration, we have sophisticated tools like AI and artificial intelligence and things like that, which students explore. Then we have laptops and tablets and iPads. We have touch screens. We have computer labs and so on and so forth. Next slide. As a researcher, whenever I hear other people in the forum of EdTech talking about the role of technology and what teachers are exploring with technology, it's the first and the foremost thing which I want to express is that technology is just a tool, a process, a medium which is there not to replace the teacher, but to enhance and help them to go forward with the most effective teaching and learning. So never ever the role of technology could be to replace teacher, but to enhance their learning. Talking about what do we mean when we try to see how technology, EdTech is being integrated in education. So a couple of definitions which have come out from research suggest that when we want to integrate technology, what we are trying to say is that there should be meaningful, authentic, intentional, and complementary use and association of educational opportunities, especially for the student community, where different tools, different technological processes are used in a way that they have very unique effect on teaching and learning. So integrating EdTech is a whole lot of process, and when teachers seamlessly integrate technology, they are enhancing their medium of reaching out to the student in the most effective manner. Next slide. This is a little a filled up page, but I think it's a very important slide where I would want to talk to all the viewers of this presentation about how teacher technology integration has evolved in the two regions of the United States and India over the period of time. And it actually dates back to the independence of these two countries, or since these two countries themselves have taken education as a forum of development. So going back to the national background, we see that in the United States, since the first 150 years of its functioning, education has been the main focus, and it is an instrument of progression. And the whole structure is based on meritocratic reward system, where it leads towards industrialized society, and computerization was an easy acceptance in the domain of education when it came to the US. In the Indian context, when we gained independence in 1947, the literacy rate was 12%, and so far we've graduated to come along to 79%. And depending on the condition of the country, the socialistic norm leading to 1990s liberalism, it opened and paved way for knowledge society. And it has been only since this new millennium that we really see kind of technology and its integration in the domain of education to some extent. Talking about the government interest, US was very swift towards integrating technology in schools. Like it was in 1996 when President Clinton came up with this idea of wiring each and every school in the United States. It was back in 1996. And when we talk about the Indian context, the idea has been to transform the whole country into a digital economy, and education is a part of it. So seeping into the education sector is a process, and it would take its own time. In the recent past, we have seen that how in 2015, Prime Minister Modi came up with the digital economy, and how he promised and how he has envisioned the whole country to be to having broadband connection. Universalization of education happened in the United States long back, probably in the first half of the 19th century, and hence the role of teacher became quite prominent in very early times. As compared to the Indian context, we have our right to education, which came up in 2010, which we all know how it universalized primary education. And with this, of course, the focus towards teacher and technology training started. And we can actually see, when we are talking about the two regions, we are talking about a lot of common parameters of development, but what we can see is the time frame delay. So talking ahead about teachers' technological exploration, in the 1990s itself, the American school system actually witnessed teachers having discretion to use computers. They had their understanding of what kind of instructional medium they wanted to use. Whereas in the Indian context, it was in probably 1986 when we have our new education policy and program of action, which came in 1992, which actually started the whole focus on quality of education. So basically, since the 80s, the Indian education system has been trying to focus on the quality of education. And with that came the focus towards integrating technology and teacher training. Institutional support is again a very important context in both these two regions. For example, in the American context, we have ISTE, which was founded in 1979, and it gives standards for technological teacher integration in K to 12 setting. So similarly, when we think about the Indian context, it was probably in 2001 when for the first time NCERT came out with a curriculum guide for how ICTs could be implemented in schools. Use of computers in classrooms. We see that in the American context, in the 80s and 90s itself, there were divisions made where we were talking about the serious users, occasional users, and non-users of technology in classroom. In the 80s and 90s, the serious users were definitely less, and it exponentially increased as the new millennium came and internet and computerization increased 1995 onwards. In the Indian context, we've been seeing that the pace of technological adoption has been episodic, sometimes uneven, and slow in many circumstances because of we all know that the majority of the country, majority of the education system is lying in the rural setup as well. Changing paradigm with instructional models. Like in one of the other meetings of this forum, which I attended the other day, somebody was talking about mental models, role of mental models in education, and actually it plays a very important paradigm because in the US, it was seen that when the design of interactive learning environments started coming into focus, like when researchers started bringing in just-in-time learning, customization, or multimedia use, or publication, things like that, it really made a change into teachers' attitude and acceptance of technology usage. Whereas in the Indian context, the focus has been mostly towards prescribed curriculum. The present millennium has definitely witnessed huge emphasis towards innovative teacher training, but the process is still slow and it's still seeping in. Involvement of EdTech corporate players. In India, we talk about PPP, like public-private partnership has been a very strong focus for at least 2 decades, even in the country. So here we see in the American context that potential of education as a market was seen as early as probably in the 90s. And computerized instruction led to move from education merchandising to corporate players not just being players in just suppliers of just being suppliers of education tools, but they became partners in course designing, in public policy, in education planning. So things actually differed from the perspective of role of corporate involvement. And in the Indian market, we see that in the last 10 years, vendors have extensively been a part of the education sector, and they're providing an overall solution package, not just, sorry, not just providing the digital content, but at the same time providing in-service teacher training and other orientation. But at this point, we also need to understand that teachers, when are given technology and even the training, what is important is to understand where their orientation lies and how much they're comfortable in adopting and accepting that technology. Last but not the least, I want to raise the point of global and local positioning of the two regions. In the American context, US has more computers than rest of the world combined. So of course we know the population of the country is like 5% of the world population, and it holds up to more than half of the internet users of the whole wide world. Whereas coming to the South Asian region, where we have like more than 20% of the world population. Ironically, only kind of less than 2 to 3% of internet users are seated in this section. And talking about the Indian content, we have just 15% of internet penetration so far, but immense affordability and research is being put into the domain of low-cost devices like tablets being explored for the education sector. So these were a couple of big parameters which I wanted to highlight from the two region perspective, which helps all of us in the education domain to actually visualize how we are trying to integrate technology and how we are positioning our teachers in the contemporary context. Next slide. I would like to talk about my Indian research a little bit, where the study was about investigating teachers' perspectives toward ICT integration in classrooms in the government schools of Delhi in India. Next slide. When I started the study, of course, the context of why to investigate such a platform was kind of clear because, of course, we are in the global age of technology. India has a huge IT imaginary. India has the second largest school system, but the IT imaginary is kind of contradictory into the image and the reality aspect, because we all know the problem of internet connectivity, the problem of outreach in rural India, and the pros and cons. But at the same time, there have been promising initiatives in the school sector which really needed to be studied. The main problem which led me to go for this study was that there has been resistance to adoption of technology in the education sector by teachers especially, and actual use of technology in school has been limited and it has not been systematically studied. So the need was to explore the factors that led to teachers adopting or rejecting technology in classrooms. And henceforth, I landed up in doing this perspective study, which sounded as something which must have been done, but unfortunately, in academic world, we do not have many research which actually gets into studying what teachers perceive about technology. Next slide. So I based my study of investigating teachers' perspectives on a very famous popular IDP model, which is by Everett Rogers. He has proposed certain parameters, and these parameters actually fitted really well for me to study the teacher's perspectives. So I looked into the knowledge of teacher, what was the knowledge about technology amongst teachers in the Indian classrooms, what were their attitudes towards technology, what were their decisions to use technology, and how were they practicing technology in their real classroom setup, and were they conforming to the use of technology in the future. So these were my certain parameters on which I based my research. Next slide. To get into the study, of course, I had to do an extensive literature review, and I divided my literature review into two major understanding of the literature. The first aspect led to the historical review of technology in Indian schools, and the other part of my literature review was how teachers perceive technology in India and in global education market. Next slide. So I based my survey, my investigation on certain research design, which was a survey design based out of a field study. And the study was designed to explore teachers' perspectives, as I said. I partnered with one implementing agency out of New Delhi, American India Foundation, which was running its digital equalizer program. And through this agency, I got access to 288 teachers from 72 government schools in Delhi. And the survey addressed, the survey was designed in a way that through a systematic approach, it addressed the different parameters of my understanding about the perspectives. And descriptive assertions were made out of the study. Next slide. This slide just explains the little process which I took in developing my instrument, my survey instrument. I looked into several other existing surveys done in the global education sector. I revised it on the basis of expert reviews who were belonging to this field. And I did a lot of cognitive interviews with teachers in India in the Delhi government schools. I spoke with the AIF director and people who are working in the field. And finally, the survey was distributed for data collection and analysis. Next slide. The project was rolled out, the survey was rolled out amongst 271 teachers. 191 teachers filled in and returned the survey. I did it in both English and Hindi language for better accessibility and ease for answering for the teachers in their comfortable language. Coding was done and SPSS was run, and the whole data was tested for validity and reliability. Next slide. This slide just presents a couple of graphs which I wanted all of you to see and be with me when I looked into the teacher background information. As it is mandatory in the Indian context, most of the teachers are B.Ed who are teaching in the government schools. Most of the teachers are female, between the age range of 31 to 50. A lot of teachers have experience of more than 15 years, and it also shows commitment of teachers to the government schools in India. Most of the teachers have been teaching with technology for the past 3 to 4 years. So 2015 and onwards, we see the trend of technology being adopted and being used by teachers in the government schools. And the primary subjects of focus area for technological use have been math, science, and to some extent social science as well. Teachers have been mostly comfortable in teaching in Hindi, and the class size in the government school on an average has been mostly around 40 to 50 students. Next slide. On an average, when we try to understand, like most of the schools, like half the government schools which I surveyed had around 5 to 10 computers in their facility. Those computers were either in the IT lab or they were in the CAL lab, which was a sanctioned space by the government. We see that most of the teachers have been using smartphone at their home as the technological device which is being mostly used. More than half of the teachers had internet access at their home, and around 50% of teachers even shared that they have access to desktop or a laptop. Talking about teachers' access to technology at school, more than 75%, three-fourths of the teachers shared that they have access to desktop, they have access to projectors, and around 35% teachers said that they have access to internet and printer at school as well. So this is a broad area where teachers are explaining about situations of technology in schools, and it gives like a broad idea about where teachers are and how many of technological access we have in the government schools. Next slide. Now, when I looked into what were the main inspirations and what were the main barriers for teachers to use technology in their classroom, some of the important or significant inspirations for teachers to use technology which came up were that their students were really motivated and enthusiastic to learn through video or through technology. Digital content was innovative, interesting, and they were helpful in preparing apt lesson planning. Visual aids enhance active discussion and demonstration. A lot of teachers said that technology helps create more effective teaching and learning, and it improves the performance of slow learners. Some of the barriers which teachers frequently felt having were scheduling conflicts and daily deadlines at schools, lack of computers and internet along with non-functional units, lack of skill, old style teaching, insufficient training, lack of infrastructure, resources, and support. And students at many schools were first generation learners of English language. And still, digital content, which is being provided by many implementing agencies, are in English language. Next slide. I think there's a problem in connection.
Shilpa,
Yes, sir.
sorry, sorry. Hello, Shilpa. Oh, okay. Shilpa, am I audible, Shilpa?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry, some technical glitch here. Okay, you are mute. Okay, S- sorry. Give me a second, please. Uh, so, Shilpa, am I audible to you,
Yes, sir, you
Shilpa?
are audible.
Okay, perfect. So, thanks for making this presentation, Shilpa. And I actually had a lot of the questions I wanted to talk to you and discuss. But unfortunately, the what we have did, what has happened is that our session has got delayed because of this technical stuff, right?
Right,
And the
right,
next
sir.
speaker has already arrived, and so I'm not able to get that delayed.
Yes,
Uh,
sir. No, sir. This is, I totally understand. And I just wanted to end at this note that like teachers in India or in the US have been exploring technology, and this present time, which is like a global pandemic, has led teachers everywhere just have a situation which we call emergency remote learning or emergency remote teaching. And there's like an umbrella platform where no matter teachers who were naive or non-users of technology, or no matter teachers probably in US who have been implementing technology at a very serious level, everyone has been exploring technology and have got a platform of exploring online medium. And probably this is the time where we can envision integration of technology in the best possible way in the future, because of this situation, probably teachers even in rural India have gotten to their phone using social media, using Facebook app to take a lesson. So it's a period of hope, and probably next time I get a chance to talk, I will be talking about how, from just perception of teacher, how they've perceived technology, how beautifully they have been implementing technology in their classroom.
Perfect. So, Shilpa, thank you so much for joining in from New York, and we are really looking forward to listening to you next time again. And thank you so much again for this.
Thank you so much,
Thank,
sir.
thank
Thank
you.
you.